Oh, okay.
Oh,
Oh,
I'm backwards, sideways.
you're
I'm good.
sideways.
Here we go.
Hi, Lee.
Hi, Cammie. How are you?
I'm good. It's so nice to finally meet you. I feel like we've been going back and forth on Instagram. I feel like I know you, but I don't officially know you, right?
That's exactly how I feel.
Well, I'm so happy. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm honestly very excited about our talk. I think this is something that is going to be so helpful to people in our industry. So I am so thankful for you to be here joining us today.
Thank you for asking me. I was honored.
Yes.
I couldn't wait to do this. I was so excited because
no.
there are a lot of questions out there.
There are, absolutely. And the beauty industry is, I want to say, one that rivals the wedding industry, if not is bigger. It's like, it's huge. And especially since COVID, women are, going into their own industry, their own business, being their own beauty bosses.
Exactly.
Salon suites are popping up left and right. Booth rentals are popping up left and right. So I think it's just really important to educate ourselves and other, people in the industry. And I think you're the person to do that for us today.
Thank you.
I'm going to be picking your brain if you don't
Okay.
mind.
I'm ready.
And, you stop me whenever, because I have a tendency to kind of just like ramble on. But first, would you mind just telling people? I don't even know if we have some viewers, so that's awesome.
Hi,
Oh, hi, Paige. Hi. Okay, so can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and just give us a little bio on yourself.
Okay. Well, my name is Lee. My last name is Spencer. My name is actually really Lisa, but I've gone by Lee for so many years in the salon, and about 25 years ago, I ventured out to go on my own in a rental salon, which it was not popular at all. And did that for about 10 years, and then went on to opening up, buying a piece of property that I thought I was purchasing for rental property. Little did I know it was going to be the future home of the salon that I do own. And that now is my rental salon that I've had for 15 years. I do work behind the chair. I specialize in balayage and French hair cutting. And I've been doing hair since I was 18 and I'm 57. And I've been renting for 25 years.
You only look a few days over 18.
Oh,
so that's one of the benefits of being in this industry, is having friends and being able to do this stuff ourselves. So that's awesome, right?
Exactly.
But I do have to say something, though. I kind of cyber-stalked you, and I looked at your salon. It is gorgeous. It's what, like a 200-year-old house? Or
it's about 240, 50 years old, and I bought it as an investment, and I wasn't renovating it. I had it rented as is. And then the people I rented from, this is why I think I'm so passionate about understanding leases and everything, because the people that I rented from wanted to sell, and they had asked me to purchase their business. Well, they only had week-to-week leases, which actually mean there's no value there. And everybody could walk tomorrow. So now I'm going to be stuck with this mortgage on this strip center and the triple net. And it scared me. And I thought, oh my goodness. So I started looking for rental places. And this is, 17, 18 years ago. Nobody did rental. So in order for me to find a spot, it was very hard for just a little area for myself. Well, I couldn't find anything, and I knew I was doing hair full time. It was my career. And my sister and I actually owned the building together. So I said to my sister, why don't we make that building a salon? And this way I will never have to worry about leaving or someone closing down or whatever again. And that's how it started. And we renovated it. And I started out as a commissioned salon. And that's why I preach so much about having a savings, because I got sick the first few months of opening, and I was out of work 8 months trying to lead commissioned stylists. My sister helped me so much. And I get back to work, we're fine. And to find out within 6 months, I need another surgery and I'm out of work again. And that's when I decided. I had a staff of 11 people, and I said to them, you guys, I can't lead you as a leader. I want to teach you booth rental. I know you don't know anything about it, but trust me, I promise you it will be worth your while. And that is how the journey started.
Were you
They all went booth rental.
Was there some resistance at first? Because there has been, from the Facebook groups that I kind of scour for, you know, just to stay up to date in an industry, a hot topic is commission versus booth rental, right? Which is better for the stylist and also the owner. Because you've done both, which is awesome because you have both sides of that knowledge. What advice would you give to an owner that's kind of debating commission versus, you know, offering a booth rental?
Well, I think the first thing is, so let me backtrack for a second. When the salon was strictly commission and I decided I could not lead the team, well, I did not realize that taxes, they held back a year of payroll tax, because, you know, you have to contribute into the taxes when you are a salon that pays payroll taxes. I got socked with a $40,000 payroll bill for taxes because it was an estimate. And then I got sick again. So I think that is my biggest thing of preaching, having money saved. And because there is payroll taxes, where with booth rental, it's a different type of tax structure. So you're not paying into the payroll.
Right.
But now it's not always profitable to do booth rental because you are set at a strictly, that's all you're getting every week or every month.
Right.
So those are the two sides of the coin. And unless you actually have a team that is bringing in income, I have so many stylists that reach out to me that want to open up commission. They have no renter, they have no stylist to actually have a salon, and they're going to use all their own money, but then they're going to end up with no money for themselves if they use their own money for all the bills. And the bills, you know, they do roll in. So as far as that, that is the biggest difference, is having your money and your business set up with the plan of how things can go, because the money goes out real quick.
Right. Absolutely. That is something that I love about your page when I was scrolling through and looking at all the videos. Well, I found you so randomly off of a reel, I think, that you posted something about have you lost your spark or something in your career, you know, and I thought that was a phenomenal subject to touch on as well. And all of your videos are very knowledgeable in finances and leases.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just thought it was awesome. So that's why I wanted to reach out to you, because it is very important. It can be very confusing as well. I went into this business just immediately as a suite renter. So I've never done commission. But really, I feel like the only way I was able to do that was because my husband, thankfully, was in finances, and he could kind of help me navigate. He actually put together my lease with my old landlord lady. So,
well, see, that's what's great. A lot of people don't know leases aren't it can't be negotiable. You can work together to have, and people get scared, but yet you need them for the stylist and the owner. It does protect both parties.
Yeah. You think people get scared because they're like locked in, or because they feel a little uneducated on the subject and they don't know what they're looking for?
Can I tell you, I have had my business for 15 years. I have had one person read the lease.
Really?
Yes.
Before signing it, one person
before
read it.
signing it.
Oh,
you know what they
so
tell
scary.
me?
What?
I'm fine. I love it here, and they do love it. Everybody's been with me, has been with me for years. And people that did go on to maybe a suite, or through COVID, a lot of people wanted suites because we have an open concept. That's something you have to be aware of, because you can, if that lease tells you you're here till April of 2024, you're obligated till April of 2024. And, you know, it's one thing when you lease from somebody who is actually working in an open concept. Like, I work there, I'm the owner. If someone has a hardship, I am very compassionate to that. I will work with someone. But in a lot of corporate leases, they're not like that. You owe money, and that's the end of the deal. And you are signed personally to that.
And it can sound harsh too, but you know what? At the end of the day, they also have bills that they need to pay.
Exactly.
And it's a business.
Exactly.
So as nice as it is to be able to work with your tenants, they're exactly that. They're tenants. And if they can't pay their bills, you can't pay yours. So, you know, there's all these different layers to be
scenarios.
involved.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, you mentioned it. Could you explain a little bit the open concept versus booth rental and commission? So,
well, the open concept is basically a salon where everybody is in the open and they're all working together. And as a client walking in through the door, the client doesn't realize that it is a booth rental salon. They think it's just a regular salon and there's a receptionist. We do not have a receptionist. Some people do, and some people don't. It just depends on what you want your structure to be. One is not wrong or right. So that is the open concept. Everyone's working together. Through COVID, though, a lot of stylists wanted to be more one-on-one.
That's the only way we could do business.
Exactly. So that's where the suite rentals really have taken off. But unless you have your lease in place, your money in place, and your startup money, what's great about booth rental is the startup cost is so much less than if you go into a suite. I don't have to decorate it. I don't have to buy towels. I don't have to buy capes. You can walk into my place and just bring your color, your scissors, your blow dryers, your foil. I have towels, capes, barbicide, cleaning products, the cotton, the wax. You know, I offer all that. So it's easy for stylists to open up their own business and be ready to go with not a lot of expense.
Right. So that is kind of going into my next question here is, I think sometimes people wonder what they necessarily need to provide as a landlord versus a commission-based salon, because it's very different. Even being suite rental landlord versus an open style, like an open concept, right, is very different. Can you kind of explain the differences from the owner side of what the differences between those are?
Well, a lot of owners, you know, I just had this question asked me this week, what type of amenities should I offer? Well, what type of budget do you have? What type of rent? Because that has to be included in your rent. All the coffee and the cookies and the towels and the capes. Yes, we provide it, but you need to know because you are going to be replenishing that for the stylists.
Right.
You know, so that part of it as an open concept, it is more readily available to have towels, capes, coffee, cream, barbicide, tint bowls, brushes. You know, if you have an open concept salon where every stylist brings everything, you are going to have a shit show of stuff everywhere. And that's where storage actually comes in, because so many salons that are booth rental do not offer a lot of storage.
Okay.
You know, when I rented 25 years ago, we had this little tiny locker. Half of my stuff was in my car.
I saw that video too, where you're explaining. Yeah, that's common too. A lot of people have to lug a huge,
Yeah, so when I opened up my salon, my first thing was I wanted to be easy for the stylist to come in. I offered everything. All they had to do was bring in their color, their scissors, their blow dryers. I have ample storage. Their stations are huge. And we have a lot of storage in the whole place. So stylists look for that. You know, as an owner, you want to look for stylists who want to be with you long term, and you want to keep them there and keep the amenities nice so they don't have to worry about all that.
Absolutely.
So that's a big thing too.
Absolutely. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. My brain is like going a mile a minute because all this is awesome. I think that's so important for salon owners to realize is that you have to also kind of think about what you're providing for them, the stylist, as opposed to what they're bringing to the table. I think I've seen a lot of owners be very picky about who they let into their booth rental, right? You know, that you have to have this, X, Y, and Z, right? And then they might not focus so much on what they're necessarily providing because it's a booth rental. I don't need to provide X, Y, and Z. But, you know, booth rental can be very competitive nowadays as well. And so I think you need to make sure it's a great match for both of you. And I think you give as much as you get. So it's really great to think about stuff like, where are they going to put their storage? Because something as little as that can make a difference when trying to find a booth renter, whether they rent from you or whether they go somewhere else. Most
booth renters that I've, through my history of working with people, they, they work as stylists also. So having those amenities, it's just common sense because you're working there also, and you want it for the stylists. You want to keep things cohesive and nice and simple. And you want them, like I said, to start their own business with not a lot of stress. And for someone who's starting for the first time, it's not a lot of startup money compared to having a suite.
Right.
And that,
how many? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just curious how many stylists that you have with you now.
We have 6 stylists.
Wow.
So we always had 11. And through COVID, we had lost about 4 of them. And it's been weird since COVID, but I will tell you this, 7 is the sweet spot for my salon. And I'm just grateful that my budget allows me to have, I don't have to have 11. And that's what you have to look for also. You know, so many people are under the gun that they have to have 6 renters or 3 renters or 9 renters because they don't want to, you know, they want that income to come in to pay the bills. You need to set yourself up for whether you have 2 renters, 5 renters, or 11 renters, because that's what separates the people who make it through times like COVID.
Right. So something else I for sure want to touch on that I know you want to as well, because a lot of your videos are on this subject, are leases and why they're so important. And I have to tell you this true story before I'm going to let you take off, because I know you have a lot to say on this as well. But I was getting my nails done the other week, and I was just talking to, you know, the ladies there, and I was talking about, I forget what, but she was talking about, I think we were talking about it on my website, you know, and then so she was like, yeah, I actually just went through this horrible situation with my old beauty landlord. She was doing a suite rental, and they didn't have a lease in place. Because I asked, well, did you have a lease in place? She ended up getting evicted. They had to get the police involved.
Oh my God.
It was, I won't go into too much detail, but it was so sad and so stressful to hear what this woman was now dealing with, because she thought she was leasing from a friend and they didn't have a lease in place. And so she was telling me like X, Y, and Z, and it was just something that every person should try to avoid. And that is exactly why leases are so important. So could you kind of go into what your thoughts on leases are? And
so my interest with leases really started when I noticed so many stylists don't read leases.
Yes.
Especially in my type of, in an open concept. Even people that do the booth running, the first thing when you read that lease, you need to see that who the lease is made out to. And it's between the leasee and the leaseor. And then what happens is you want to have the dates on there. So if it's a 1 year or a 2 year or a 3 year, that is the next most important thing, because that's dictating the length of the term. That's how long the stylist will be obligated for. And then you want in there the price, because the price is so, you know, it could say on there a 2% increase every year. You know, a lot of people don't realize that could be in there. Also, a lot of people don't realize when you exit, if you do not give, most leases will have a 30, 60, or 90-day exit clause. If you do not do that properly, you can be fined, but it will also roll over. So you're obligated for another 2 years or 3 years. That's why it's so important. And, you know, a lot of them are simple reading in a sense, unless you're getting into a big corporate company and there's 40 pages. But through my experience, most booth rental salons and even some suites are not so complicated. It's just taking the time to see what's in there to make sure. And if there's something that a stylist says, I'm not sure about this, ask. And if you are a salon owner, you should sit down with the new person that's coming into rent and go through paragraph, so there is a clear understanding. Because there's nothing worse than someone saying, oh, I'm leaving, and I say, well, you have 9 months left on your lease.
Right.
And that breaks, I don't want to do that to somebody, but I'm in business also.
Right. And so the leases are also in place just as much for the landlord as they are for the person renting, I think, because so that's why you want to make sure as the owner that they specifically understand what they're getting and what's to be expected. So that way you don't start off on the wrong foot. And
exactly. And not only that, so many stylists do not realize, salon owners, that lease, if you do not have leases in place, your business, you have to ask yourself, why am I in business? Am I here just for a free chair so I could work, have someone pay for my chair? Or am I here to have this big company so I can maybe only work 1 or 2 days and lead everybody? What is your real reason why you're opening? Most people open a business because they want to be profitable. Now, if you do not have your leases in place and you want to go to the bank for, I don't know, you want to buy a house or whatever, that is your income. If you don't have leases, you don't have income. If you sell your business and there's no leases in place, you don't have a business to sell. That is your business, those leases. And that is where so many people get confused by that. The other thing, I have so many stylists reach out to me, what if I don't like the person? That's a big thing, because you can think you're hiring, or not hiring, but bringing someone in as a renter. You really don't know someone till you work with them. And it takes 6 months and a year to really learn how people interact and jive together. But my suggestion to people like that is use a month-to-month lease.
Right.
And after 6 months, it rolls over to a 2-year lease. This way you both have those little bit of months to get to know each other. And it makes it easier, and it's not so scary for people, because the culture is so important nowadays. Yeah. Everybody wants to be, you know, I don't want to work with them because of this, and I don't want someone like that. Listen, we don't know people till we are actually working with them. So if you want to protect yourself, do a month-to-month lease and then have it roll over after 6 months or 8 months or whatever you decide to a 2-year lease or 3-year lease. This way you have happy parties on both sides.
I completely agree. Yeah, I think month-to-month is a really, really great way to go. That's actually what I did as well. Because it is so important before you get locked in to, you know, year to year, you want to make sure that you guys vibe, you know, because you're going to be there. And if you have a salon with multiple stylists, I was just one other lady, but you know, if you have 6, 7, 10, 12, 20 stylists, and you know, we're all working close quarters, we're sharing, you know, shelves, whatever, you want to make sure that you don't have somebody kind of bringing the team down, because it is a team. Even though we're all individual stylists, especially in an open concept, you are still a team. That's why, you know, the open concept is so appealing to most people.
Exactly. And it also helps for new stylists who are afraid to make that a commitment. They really want to go on their own. They're leaving a commission salon. They want to start their own business, but they're scared. Do a month-to-month lease for 6 months with them, or however you decide to do it. That's the beauty of leases. You could really create to your imagination.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you completely that as an owner, you should go make sure that blows my mind that people don't read their lease before they sign it. Like, oh gosh, we're going to fix that though.
I've had one person.
You've had one person read it. We're going to slowly, one stylist
at a time.
Yeah, we're going to fix that. So something else that kind of like segues into that is the difference between a lease agreement and a culture contract.
So a lot of stylists, the culture contract is great. It's really the unique vibe that you want in your salon. You know, your culture could be like, we're all blending specialists, and it's also too, you know, as a booth renter or as a landlord, I'm not here to tell you how to run your business. I'm not here to collect your money. I'm not here to talk to your clients, but I do want the salon, let me use this for an example. Say you want everyone to be blending specialists, or, you know, at the end of the day, this is what you expect. And are you willing to do that? Are you willing to do social media? Are you willing to, you know, because we're all working together. We want to have fun and build. We're building, even though we're building our own business, we are still representing the salon that you're leasing space out of. It's a win-win for everybody. You know, and that goes back to, this sounds maybe silly, but when you are leasing space in an open concept salon, and I'm using that for an example because the coffee, the cream, the cookies, whatever it is, everybody, if you see it empty, everybody should pitch in and fill it up and take, because when you have your own suite, when you're out of coffee, guess what? You got to fill it up. When you're out of cookies, you got to fill it up. Everybody should have some skin in the game.
Yeah, and that's basically what just setting up a culture contract
Exactly
beforehand does. It's just, this is our expectations for having you rent here. So are things like wardrobe, like outfits, and do you include that as well?
No, actually, technically, you're not able to tell people what to wear and what they can't wear. But your vibe of the people you attract, when you see someone, like say if you're a jeans and t-shirt type of salon and someone walks in with a 3-piece suit and you really vibe well, but I mean, you know, we're not here to judge. It's all about creativity.
Right.
And the main thing is what the uniqueness is that you're looking to have in your salon. So it's really, it's up to you, the owner.
I think that's something that I think all the time is when I see people or read these questions that a lot of people have, like, should I do this, or how much should I charge for this, or should I, you know, part of the amazing thing about being your own owner is there's very few rules. Like, you can just do what's right for your business. I mean, within the legal, you know.
Exactly.
But it's just what's right for you. So
it is, and you could be creative with that. You know, a culture contract is not part of the lease. They're two separate contracts. So I always tell people, as far as the owner, you submit them together. You bring them out in the open, and at that point, when they're looking at the lease, you give them a copy of the culture contract. They might not like your culture. They might think this is where I want to be, but it's not. So that's why it's important. Do you have to have a culture contract? Absolutely not. No, it's really, you know, a lot of the younger generation wants culture contracts.
Yeah, I think they're good to have in place, though. As I said, just having something very clearly in writing, or, you know, going it over with them, you know, what we're about.
Exactly. And your mission.
It's
your mission, it's your values, it's the core of your business. And if you have those same cores and values, then you're a great fit.
Right.
And that's what it really comes down to.
Now, let's say we have the lease, we have the culture contract, but for some reason there's still some type of conflict. There's still some type of either tiff between the owner and the renter, or between the renters themselves. Have you ever experienced something or had to deal with something like that as an owner?
You know, as an owner, I have had experience, and you know, I used to have 11 stylists in the salon, and you know, you might have someone who talks too loud and someone who, you know, is too happy all the time. I don't know, whatever. And you can't have people say, "Oh my God, they talk so loud," and you know, it's one of those things where when you bring somebody in, you're going to look out for specific things that people do, their gestures or how they act, and if they talk really loud or if they don't. And you know, you got to be open-minded to that, because that is part of this, you know, people coming in. If you're a really quiet, introverted person and you don't like really loud people, you know, that could be a little conflict. So those are things to pay attention to before they actually start.
Oh, I completely agree. As the owner, you're kind of like the captain of the football team. You know, you got to make sure that all your team members are getting along, and if not, take charge.
Yeah, you just want to pay attention to those little cues, just little cues that might say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know, she's so loud. I don't know, we're all so quiet." You know, you got to think about those things. That's why you can't just rent to anybody.
Right.
But you can't not, it goes back to the vibe.
Yeah.
This goes back to the vibe. You can't, you know, that's where
But
the
you
culture
also can't be
contract.
too picky. You have to get, as you said, you have to give people a chance because you don't want to just, judge people off of,
That's exactly right.
book
You
and
cannot
cover.
judge. And you might be surprised, the stylists that I thought would never last are the ones that have been with me the longest.
I believe that. I do. And under the right tutelage, and if you have the right, because my previous lady that I was renting from, she was phenomenal. She really went above and beyond
Aww.
for what she had to do for me. And an experience like that can just make or break. And if you go above and beyond as an owner or educator, I just think that you're going to build so much loyalty from your stylist. And
that's exactly what it is. It's loyalty between stylists. It's loyalty with clients. Who you are as a person really shows everyday life of how things are going to react to you.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to think things through. You pay attention and really know what you want. And that's when it goes back to making sure you're set up financially, that you can take your time to pick and choose and how you want your salon to be.
Right. Yeah. I'm gonna start wrapping it up because I don't want to keep you too long. Although honestly, I feel like I could keep you for another 2 hours. So I'm definitely gonna have to schedule a part 2 with you.
Oh, I would love that.
For sure, because I have like 20 more questions on here that I'm like, oh gosh, I have to get through them all.
Yeah.
But I just some personal questions,
Sure.
if you don't mind. I'm curious. In this industry, you've been in this industry how many years? You said like 30-some?
37.
Yeah. So in your experience, what's the hardest lesson you've ever had to learn, if something comes to mind?
I would think the hardest lesson is really, for me, it's really speaking what I wanted my salon to be, but didn't really know it because I was, throughout the years as I've become more mature in life, I've learned to speak to people differently and to state what I want and need and not be afraid to tell other stylists what I want or need. And I want them to tell me also, so we could all work together. When I was younger, I was more like, oh, sure, go ahead, do that. Oh, sure, go ahead, no problem. I was working. I was doing 3 people an hour. I mean, I came from the 80s. We worked on production. Mm-hmm. And it's not like that now. And now I'm not afraid to tell people, exactly how I feel and how I want the salon to be. That would probably be my biggest thing. I pretty much would say that.
That's really good. I would really like that answer, because on top of that, communication is huge in life, right? Like any relationship needs communication, including the relationship between a salon owner and the landlord, the tenant. If the tenant
you don't have to be harsh and you don't have to be like rigid. You can come across with views that both parties can still be happy. How could we work together? I'm not really sure about that part in the lease. Could we maybe change it to this? Right. Or, hey, I don't know about this. How do you feel about working with me so I can be a long tenant with you? There's ways to speak where you're not offending. And I think that's what I would say my biggest lesson in life has been.
I think that's what I want our next video to be on, is like how to communicate, because that is so important, honestly, because as an owner, you need to be able to not let people walk all over you.
Right.
And I hate to say it, sometimes if you give people an inch, they'll take a mile. And so you need to be able to say, no, I'm sorry, like your rent is due. I need your rent, or other times you need to be able to have them come to you as a friend.
Exactly.
Or feel comfortable that way. So I think that's what our next video is going to be on, Lee. But just one more question, probably. What's your or 2 more questions? I'm sorry.
That's
and then I'll
okay.
let you go.
But
what's your biggest accomplishment so far? The thing that you're the most proud of in your 30-some years in this industry?
I would say my communication.
Yes.
I would.
Absolutely.
Because I feel like I'm not afraid to speak my mind. I'm not afraid to say what I feel. And, I started Startup Stylist just this past summer, and I am very computer illiterate. I don't know how to edit videos. I don't know how to do anything. I just literally walk in the salon. I think of a subject or something that happened to me that day, and I post it.
I love that though about your videos.
Yeah.
I love that it's just you. It's raw, but it's you just giving awesome info. It's none of like the crazy, you know.
And it's usually just what happens throughout the day. And I do have stylists reach out to me and ask me questions, and you know, that's how it is. And I started it, and I can't get over the overwhelming response I've had. And that is the next phase of my life, is to do more coaching, and because the rental business is not getting less, it's becoming more.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, 1,000%. Do you have last question?
Sure.
And if not, don't worry about it, because I kind of just threw this out there. But I always love asking people, because I've heard some pretty crazy stories. What's the most outrageous, crazy, funny story in this industry, whether from an owner or just starting out in the industry? Do you have like a story that comes to mind? Or
Yeah, I do.
would you like to share?
Yeah. So I rented in my salon, not my salon, when I first booth rented myself 18, 20 years ago. And there was a girl next to me, a stylist, and I love her. We're still friends. And that's when the Chi flat irons were very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And she looked at me, and I always had the best products, the newest and greatest irons. I wanted my client to know that I was constantly educating myself and being involved in the hair world. So while she's doing her customers' hair, she says, "Lee, can I use your Chi iron?" And I said, "Sure." She says, and she looks at her customer with the Chi iron, and she says, "This is the best iron on the market. I don't bring any of my good stuff to work. I only use it on myself at home." And I thought to myself, I grabbed her and I said, "Don't ever tell a client that. They want to know you're using the best products on themselves."
Yes. Oh my gosh.
That stuck with me my whole life. It was just a cute little story. And that's again where communication comes in. You need to know how to speak with clients. We need to know how to speak with other fellow stylists, and to the public. And that's what builds trust. And we're still
hilarious.
friends till this day.
That's so hilarious. That reminds me, I was kind of similar. I was like waitressing one time, and I don't know why, but the people I was serving, they ordered something, and I went back to the kitchen. They were like, "Oh no, we're out of bread." And I went and told them. I went back out to the table. I'm like, "Oh no, I'm sorry, we can't give that for you. We're out of bread." And the manager pulled me inside, and she's like, "What are you doing? You never tell the
we're out of bread."
That. Yes. So that's hilarious. I would love, Lee. Thank you so much. I want to, let you go. I've already taken up so much of your time.
Oh my gosh, I loved it.
I had so much fun. So I'm going to be messaging you. And we're going to set up another communication 101.
Oh, I would love
that's okay with you.
That is huge.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Thank you so much for joining me.
Many stories I can go on with that about.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I have learned so much from today. So thank you for letting me pick your brain. Is there anything else that you wanted to?
I just want to say thank you for having me. I think what you're doing is fabulous, because the salons, the owners, the renters, we don't really have anywhere to turn for, other places to rent or to purchase or whatever. And you've brought this to the table now, which opens up a whole nother door. And there's no one doing that, which is great. We need that.
Thank you so much. I mean, honestly, I'm just really excited to really get in there and start interviewing more beauty bosses and really just, I don't know, growing and talking with more people and learning as much about the industry as possible.
And it's just one day at a time, and every day adds up.
One day at a time. Well, Lee, thank you so much. For all of our viewers, make sure you guys follow the Startup Stylist.
Yes.
And I'm going to be following you and, making sure that I see all your videos so I can stay up to date. And I'll message you later about the part 2.
Yes. Thank you so much. I loved it.
So much. All right. Well, you have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thanks everybody for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye.